Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as EricTheCarGuy, and yes, I'm going to do it again. If it is your birthday, I want to wish you a happy birthday. All right, it's funny because the topic of today's video is about coming to the shop and not making videos, and here I am making an EricTheCarGuy video. Maybe I should refine that a little bit to not making repair videos when I come to the shop. I'm the last person on the planet to complain about my work life. I have what I feel is probably the greatest job ever in the history of the planet. I love being a YouTuber because that's in essence what I am. I more clearly define this in a video that I did about my life as Eric the Car Guy, which I'll link down in the description, basically talking about what it is that I do. But I have segued from sort of a hybrid between doing repairs and running a repair shop to pretty much, I don't want to say exclusively because it's not exclusive, but for the most part, what I do is I make YouTube videos and the business of those YouTube videos and editing those YouTube videos, which takes an immense amount of time. Some of you out there are actual YouTubers and you do create content and you understand exactly what I'm talking about when I say that it takes a lot of time to edit video and to put it out. Just to put it in perspective for those of you that don't do this type of work, say for instance, I come in and I shoot a video that ends up being about 3 hours of just raw footage. So I cut that down to 2 hours and some change in what I call a rough cut. And then I go through it again and eventually probably pare that down to about 30 minutes. So you have to think, I start with, let's just say for round numbers, 2.5 hours worth of footage. I have to go through that whole 2.5 hours worth of footage. And mind you, I'm stopping and cutting and changing and doing things that whole time. So it's like maybe 4 hours for that first cut and then another hour and a half for the next cut. So to bring you your typical 30-minute video, just in editing alone, I have at least 6 to 7 hours. That's a whole day's work to some people, if you're working the traditional 8-hour days, which I don't know who does that anymore. Point being is I spent a whole lot of time doing this. Not to mention doing the repairs themselves and then recording them. It's sped things up enormously since I brought cameraman Brian and also now cameraman Derek into the fold, in that I don't have to stop and set the camera up and everything else between each and every shot like I did when I first started doing this. That's been a thing that's sped up my production process a lot. In fact, it's left me with a lot of videos sitting in the queue waiting to be edited because, once again, going back to the amount of time it takes to do that. This whole video kind of comes about in that I came in here yesterday and today just to work. Yesterday, today's Monday, by the way, Monday, February 6th. And I came in on a Sunday, which is traditionally a day where I don't work. I don't really do much of anything. I do a little bit email in the morning and then I just find something else to do besides sit at my desk, which I do a whole lot of. Yesterday I decided to come into the shop because this week I intend on pulling the engine and everything out of the Fairmont and redoing the front suspension. I needed to prepare for that. So Sunday I came in, went through my entire inventory of parts that have been sitting around. It's honestly been like almost 3 months since I've done any significant work on the Fairmont. And that might surprise some of you, but once again, the backlog of videos that are shot compared to what's coming out. That leaves me with, a lot of footage in the queue to edit, and the stuff for the Fairmont is really long. And the Fairmont's kind of in a place to where Steve Darnell calls it the last 10%, which is like the hardest part. And I completely agree with him. Like getting the big lumps in place, like the engine and transmission and cutting holes in the floor for shifters and all that kind of stuff is pretty straightforward, but it's connecting all those little systems and making them work, like setting up each and every part of the fuel system, the electrical system, stuff like that eats up a lot more time. And those little things, like I just did a bunch of work inside the engine compartment, like fitting the accessories to the front of the engine, all that kind of stuff. And it's really hard to come up with like a clear direction on how to make a video of that other than just documenting what happens, because in that instance, I'm bouncing around. I may start by putting the radiator in, but then I find out that the inlet or the air filter for the turbo doesn't allow the upper radiator hose to go over to the top of the engine. So now I'm faced with having to deal with that problem. Oftentimes having to order parts, which takes a few days, which interrupts the shoot. And now I'm way behind on, I don't even remember what I shot the last time I was working on it. And now I have to pick up somehow where I left off. Once again, not complaining, just trying to give you an outline of how things go down in the Eric the Car Guy universe. But to that end, and the reason why I'm talking about this today and the reason why the Element is sitting behind me is I came in today on a Monday because, as I stated, I'm going to be spending the rest of the week working on the Fairmont, and I want to have the Fairmont on a lift and all that kind of stuff. Well, I went to leave yesterday and realized that the radiator was leaking on the Element. And it was something I suspected long ago. In fact, I already had a radiator here at the shop because I know Honda radiators and they do tend to leak after a while. I thought I had some time. Well, it was leaking pretty good yesterday and I was thinking to myself, oh crap. It was a nice day, so I took the liberty of driving the GSR home, but then when I went to start the GSR, the battery was dead because I haven't driven it all winter. And I had to jump start it to get it going. But I did get it going and I did drive it and I did enjoy driving it. But today I came back in, I got all my work done this morning so I could replace the radiator in the Element. Well, see, the thing is I didn't want to spend the time and the effort to make a video of that radiator replacement. Hence the reason why I'm making this video. Sort of as an apology for not doing that, but just to let you know that sometimes I just want to come in here and work. I just want to enjoy the shop. Now I do, like I said, I love making the videos for you. I really, really do. I mean, that's the coolest job ever. I can't say it enough. But there are times where I just want to turn a wrench. That I just want to get back to how I used to do things and when everybody wasn't watching. It seems counterproductive to say, I realize that, I'm here and a lot of people would just kill to be where I'm at. And I get it, and I would too. I really would. I haven't, but I would. The point is, sometimes I just want to work. And I think, honestly, I'm going to forewarn you now, with a lot of fixing it forward stuff that's coming up. I will be making videos, but I don't know about the same kind of detail. Because I'm actually going to try to spend some time in Atlanta at a shop that's already doing a fixing it forward type of work so I can learn more about how to do this. I want to do this right. And a lot of you have brought things up like, hey Eric, recently I posted a video about Jeff Schmidt's Ford coming back for an alternator replacement. And a lot of you brought up a point that actually came up with Jeff Schmidt's car and somewhat with Barbara's van. Barbara's actually totally nice and totally wonderful and a great person. And I'm not saying Jeff isn't a good person. I'm just saying with older cars like that, the issues that I'm repairing on that day with fixing it forward are not going to be the only issues. And I can tell you, when you start fixing things on a vehicle that hasn't had any kind of mechanical attention in a while, the rest of the parts get jealous and they break shortly afterwards, similar to what happened with Jeff's alternator. Not his fault, okay? It happened, okay? So what am I supposed to do? I go through all this time and effort to get his car back on the road, and it's back on the road, but then a few weeks later, he's got a bad alternator. And then who knows what else after that. This is the point that I'm trying to make. I want to actually do this type of charitable work for a while. See what is involved. I mean, without making the videos. Maybe make videos about the day and stuff that's going on, but as far as making, detailed repair videos like this, and this is how I got here. A lot of people picked up on it out in the YouTube world and they're starting to do those videos now. So I'm not the only source anymore. Now there's lots of people and some of them are pretty darn good. But that being said, it's gotten to a point where I just want to turn a wrench. And I'm not saying I don't want to make videos anymore. What I'm saying is that takes a ton of time and it's a completely different skill set than just coming in here and grabbing my tools and working or tinkering all day on a Sunday, taking inventory of all my Fairmont parts, reading the instructions and trying to gear myself up for a week's worth of work. The purpose of today's video is merely to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry in advance, and I'm sorry today for not making a video about the radiator replacement on the Element, because I just needed my truck back. It's supposed to snow like later in the week. This is what I drive in the snow. It's got snow tires, all-wheel drive, and it's already rusted up to heck and gone. So I have no real attachments to it. It is my winter vehicle. This is the best winter vehicle I have. Oh, and if you're wondering about the headlights, which you're probably screaming at the screen by now, yes, I did make a video on their replacement. In fact, by now you've probably seen the other video that I did, the HID versus LED versus halogen, which I've been waiting actually a year to even shoot that video. And the one of the replacement of those headlights, because I wasn't going to put the new headlights in until I'd shot that video about the comparison between the different bulbs. I bounced around a lot in this video. I didn't mean to. I just came in to basically say, hey, sorry about not making a repair video on the Element radiator replacement, but I've got plenty more on the Element. And honestly, give me some feedback on what you want to see with this, because with Eric the Car Guy, I'm kind of mixing it up this year. Those of you that might have seen the first video I did in 2017, which is what this is, I had hinted at sprinkling in more repair videos and not just being full-on Fairmont videos all the time. And I've done exactly that, and I've had a lot of positive feedback with it. But I do have a few videos with the Element that honestly I shot last year. I did lower ball joints, I did a thermostat replacement, I did an alternator replacement. You know, I told you about the headlight video that I recently did. The only thing I haven't done is that radiator replacement. And I'm sorry I didn't do that. But once again, I just wanted to come in and just get it done. It took me about an hour and a half because I ran into trouble with rust. But that's the other side of things. I talked about the editing. You know, I might start with 3 hours and it'll take me 8 hours to edit all that down to what you finally see. Well, shooting is the same. Even with cameraman Brian or Derek, to do a regular repair takes 2 to 3 to sometimes 4 times longer than it would if you were just doing the repair, just because you're setting up the camera, you're setting up the lights, you're setting up the shot, you're making sure the audio is good. There's different levels of video production that are involved with that. And some people, I think, take that for granted. And I consider that a compliment, if I'm honest. If you don't even realize that I've put out a good production and you're focusing on the content and not the production, that means at least production-wise, I have succeeded in my ability to deliver the video and the information. So there is that. Anyhow, I'm going to close this out here. If you have automotive questions, I realize I didn't even cover any of that stuff in this video at all. I ask that you head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. That'll be linked in the description along with the videos and some other things that I mentioned. Always check the descriptions of my videos. Even on Eric the Car Guy, I spent a whole lot of time putting them together to try to answer a lot of questions that I think might get asked. Google+, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thank you so much for watching and putting up with my little rant and my lack of radiator video on the Element. See you next time.